Instead of our evening newscast, first at 5, coming up, join us for a special holiday edition of Focus 15.
Wintertime is barely survival. About all we can do is just try to just get out of the wind, stay as warm as we can.
Gathering wood's our biggest thing, you know.
In the bleak midwinter, frost wind made moan. Earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone.
On this Christmas Eve and during this holiday season, many of you will no doubt gather with friends and family, enjoying all the comforts of home. But hundreds of area residents won't enjoy these simple pleasures because they really have no place to call home. Instead, they live here on the streets.
Try to figure out what I can do. I mean, it's cold. It does get cold.
I don't like handouts. I do what I can to get by.
They're everyday people.
For the next half hour, I invite you to listen to the homeless and those who are trying to help them in a special Focus 15 we're calling Homeless for the holidays.
Community, commitment, coverage you can count on. This is Focus 15 on Wayne TV. Here's your host, Terra Brantley.
Food, shelter, clothing, medical help, job placement assistance. All of these things are provided by a network of organizations that work together to help Fort Wayne's homeless population. Yet resources are stretched thin as the needs of the homeless continue to grow. Why is this the case and what's being done to help? To get on the path to answer this, let's start by taking you to a homeless campsite.
This is the River Greenway.
On a daily basis, Lisa Graham
This is outreach. This is our homeless outreach.
and her co-worker, Sarah Darling Woods,
We come as a team, so there's always two of us.
do welfare checks and drop off supplies.
In the last year, we have connected with approximately 300.
300?
300.
To Fort Wayne residents who live on the streets.
Our goal is to outreach with homeless people who have mental illness or mental illness with substance abuse issues. We try to provide them encouragement.
They work as recovery specialists at Park Center.
We really don't feel endangered because they're everyday people.
We're almost there.
On this night, we caught up with them checking up on Dennis and Yvonne Coder.
Hello, hello.
Hey, you guys. Sorry about the smoke today. You see the big wall of wood I just brought over?
Guys are always collecting firewood for every individual tent that has a fire pit.
After falling on hard times, Yvonne feels for right now, living like this is the best she can do.
I don't want to be a burden on my family. My family has kids. They have their own problems. They don't need me being a problem. So I just use my own options. This is mine. Ours.
That option is staying here with her ex-husband, Dennis.
It's hard, you know. There's certain things, you know, that happen in my life that I kind of do regret because there's opportunities I wish I could have, you know. Food stamps I can't have right now. Passport I can't have.
I don't have a job. I am on Social Security.
Okay.
But like anybody else, whoever gets paid at the beginning of the month, I mean, you wind up in a situation where you don't have a place to live at the middle of the month. You have no money to go anywhere.
I do go out and do job hunting.
Most of our population lives from paycheck to paycheck.
At any given time, day or night, warm or cold, dozens of people call this area home.
It gets very dangerous. We had a group of people come through and attack a young man that was in this tent. They beat him with a baseball bat. Hit one of our females in the face. Cops have been generous. Parks and Recs is generous. They come through during the day. Police are here at night.
The city continues working with those who help the homeless. A year ago, a 15 finds out investigation revealed homeless residents living outside on riverfront property received eviction notices, indicating they had 24 hours to clear their belongings or be subject to arrest. Complaints that prompted this have diminished.
This is really addressing the folks who are living outside day to day.
Grants Administrator and Director of Community Engagement, Rebecca Karsher.
Our protocol now, since that time, about a year ago, is that we have reached out and connected with partners like the Rescue Mission, like Park Center, some places that have outreach teams who go out and talk with the folks who are living on the streets, and we let them know as soon as we know that there is going to need to be some kind of movement of their campsite, so that they have as much time as possible to know that they need to pick up their things and go on. Most of the time that has worked really well in this last year.
We've noticed the police don't bother us as long as our areas are clean. And that's the main thing that people aren't realizing. If you're clean, they're not going to complain as much.
Helping with cleanliness is something Park Center provides through Lisa and Sarah's work, but they do a lot more than just offer supplies.
I'm giving him my number, that way he can call me and get connected with services. And we'll come and transport them back to Park Center.
You try to offer them resources, find out which ones they have been connected to and which ones they haven't, and try to bring that closer to them. Whether it be filling out applications, assisting them filling out applications for housing, food stamps.
Park Center provides this. How is all that paid for? I mean, how is all this organized?
There's a grant through the state, FSSA, and ours is the Division of Mental Health and Addiction, and that's how we are funded, is through the grant.
It can get cold, it can get lonely. A lot of them deal with the loneliness, but they find ways to cope. Mine is my dog, obviously. He doesn't go very far, but I've got clothes. I've got somewhat a roof over my head right now. Hopefully the 3rd that will change. I've got food, and I got one more day. And that's what it comes down to. That's what a lot of these guys come down to, is one more day.
I'm trying to keep the heat. So.
Many homeless residents who live outside do find shelter and help staying warm, especially when it gets really cold. Coming up, a look at some of their options.
Focus 15 Homeless for the Holidays continues. Now, here's your host, Terra Brantley.
Fort Wayne's Rescue Mission is one of the most well-known local agencies for helping the homeless, but it is not alone. A number of organizations and entities work together to provide what you could call a continuum of care. With a tree shining brightly in the midst of people enjoying a meal in the living room, at first glance, this scene looks like a holiday gathering. But look closely. It's actually lunchtime at a day respite for the homeless.
Turkey and lasagna and vegetables, and so I'm serving that today.
This house on Madison Street is owned by St. Mary's Church. It's called Ave Maria.
You guys are the volunteers?
Yeah, these two do. I've got a group of really good volunteers that come here on a daily basis.
Dottie Carpenter is in charge. She is 82 years old.
It's a place where they can come and rest, take a nap if they need to. A lot of times they're on the street at night and they don't get a lot of rest, so they can come here and take a nap. They can get coffee, they can get snacks. Sometimes I cook a meal, like I'm doing today. Come through this way.
For people who live on the streets and at makeshift campsites like Yvonne and Dennis Coder, this house temporarily gets them off the streets and into something that is the closest thing they can call home.
A lot of the guys and girls go over to Miss Dottie's for showers.
A lot of these guys are outside, and like anybody else, they want to keep clean.
She does laundry for us.
They can wash their clothes in here?
They can wash their clothes in here. They have to sign up for the laundry. They have to sign up for a shower. They have to sign in as a guest.
Ave Marie House, there's a few other places that do help out.
They're not judged here. They're treated with dignity and respect. And I do have some pretty tough guidelines and some pretty tough rules that I make them go by. And some of them think, well, she's an older lady, so we can get by with something. No. We got a Christmas tree. I put up a tree.
Ave Maria is one of about a dozen partial day respites and halfway houses in the city.
This is where I keep the socks and underwear and shoes.
People donate these things.
Yep, just about everything.
It is not considered an emergency or transitional shelter, and it does not offer overnight lodging. There are 11 sites that are recognized as official shelters. The most well-known is the Rescue Mission.
Last year, we served 1,275 unique individuals.
Donovan Coley is the CEO.
The state of homelessness in our area, it's reflected in about 2,500 to 3,000 persons that are homeless.
Mashed potatoes and green beans and corn.
Every year, the mission serves approximately 270,000 meals and is a hub of activity for programs to help the homeless.
We have 3 residential facilities here at the Rescue Mission.
But while food is in ample supply, beds and resources are not.
We don't have the space here at the Rescue Mission to address the needs that we're seeing.
All told, there are only 500 available beds at emergency and transitional shelters in Fort Wayne. The number of homeless far exceeds that.
Along with the 2,500 to 3,000 persons, it doesn't count many of the individuals who are doing what we call couch surfing, or individuals who are in blended families and multiple families living in one particular home. Families are disintegrating. We're seeing a lot of folks with increased trauma in their lives. We have stigmatized the issue of mental illness, and so many who are mentally ill are no longer receiving the services because of cuts in state funding.
In hopes of addressing the broad spectrum of needs facing the homeless, the mission and other homeless advocates coordinate their efforts with the City and United Way of Allen County.
There's still a lot of work to be done.
Tiffany Bailey is the United Way's Director of Community Impact. The organization provides financial support for about half of the primary emergency and transitional shelters and the 211 call service for those in need.
What we are seeing within our 211 Service Center at United Way is that over 50% of the individuals that are contacting us for homeless services are contacting us because they've been homeless before.
Bailey co-chairs the Fort Wayne Area Planning Council of Homelessness with City Grants Administrator of Community Development, Rebecca Karsher.
We're strengthening that support network of public and private sector, grassroots organizations, faith-based organizations, social service agencies. A lot of entities play a role in that continuum of care. One of the big things we've accomplished is we have a solid plan for how we're going to handle winter emergency situations, emergency shelter. Our partners spent the last year working on a plan that will include some warming centers, which will be places that people can go when the weather conditions meet a certain criteria.
That certain criteria is a temperature of about 10 degrees.
The entity that will decide when that plan needs to go into effect is Homeland Security. That's something that they do. And they will notify the mayor, and the mayor will notify all the partner agencies then that this plan is in place. There will be a designated location where it's okay to go and come in out of the cold.
One of those is downtown on Main Street.
Typically, there is a policy about no loitering at the community center. So on the days when that plan is in place, they will relinquish the no loitering policy and allow people to be inside and stay safe and warm throughout the day.
This is the room where the guys come in to rest.
Providing a safe and warm refuge throughout the year is just the tip of what continues to be a challenge for day respites and shelters.
I'm not the rescue mission, but I do what I feel is best for them.
Those who are dedicated say it's a ministry.
I think of myself as doing God's will, and I'll be here as long as I can.
Even with all of these options in place, funding to sustain some of these programs and services is being cut. Coming up, how this will impact efforts to help the homeless become self-sufficient.
Now here's more Focus 15 with your host, Terra Brantley.
The ultimate goal of homeless shelters is to help the homeless become self-sufficient. But what happens when the money gets cut? One local organization is about to suffer a major blow that could significantly impact the very people it is trying to help the most. This house in central Fort Wayne is one of about 50 units specifically designated for homeless families who participate in the Genesis Outreach program.
We have multiple units in various neighborhoods throughout the city.
Albert Brownlee is the director.
Some are apartments, others are houses or duplex units. And the goal is to make sure as many homeless families and individuals that can be housed are housed.
But because of federal cuts that take effect in 3 months, dozens of Genesis families could be back on the streets.
Well, come March 2016, presently we would say there are about 75 to 80 of those who are presently in housing, and they would lose their housing.
So what happens to them?
They would be homeless. They would return to the streets. We would work with them as best as we could to try and find other alternatives and potential resources if there are any in the community. But just knowing our local landscape, things are quite stretched at our partner agencies.
So why the cut in federal funding? Figures from the Department of Housing and Urban Development show that in January 2015, the homeless population was down by more than 11,700 people since the last count that was taken in January 2014. There was also a drop in homeless veterans. During that same time period, the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority says Indiana's homeless rate went down 2%. The drop in the homeless count translates to a drop in funding.
We will lose approximately $265,000 of funding.
If you were to look at the snapshot that the state of Indiana puts out, they're saying in this particular area we have between 500 and 600 persons. But by the definition we use, as opposed to the federal definition, we could see upwards of 5,000 to 7,000 individuals in our area that would be considered homeless based on the definition that we come up with. And for us, it's all about giving dignity to the human being. And so if an individual is not living in a safe, secure environment, a home, then they're considered homeless.
It's devastating. It's the trauma of it all.
To help the dozens of Genesis families who may lose their homes, Brownlee is looking at options.
My goal is to find alternatives beforehand if they're going to have to move at all. If I can't raise the funds, however, to be proactive for them as well as our needs. You know, I've set a deadline date of the end of the year, you know, so if things have not turned around as it pertains to that program by 12/31, then the conversation will be meeting with those families to address what their next steps will be.
With funds to help the homeless being cut, a shelter that does not rely on federal or state funds is trying to increase its outreach. Hear about a multi-million-dollar capital campaign when Focus 15 continues. Earlier you heard the Fort Wayne Rescue Mission is one of the primary sites that serves up hot meals for the homeless and facilitates programs. As the needs of the homeless grow, the mission is trying to grow as well.
I lived in a camper for a while, and then I heard about the rescue mission, so I came over here and I wanted to start over.
55-year-old Bill Jones is working to get his life back on track. He lives at the Fort Wayne Rescue Mission.
I needed anger management classes, a place to live, and work, so I conquered all three, and then all of a sudden I had a heart attack, and that's when they took me to a heart specialist. Said my heart was only working at 25%, and they gave me a double bypass.
That surgery and expenses came to about $200,000, none of which came out of Bill's pocket.
Bill had insurance, he was employed, and had some health issues.
Chris Howell is a nurse at Parkview Hospital. She works with the rescue mission.
He ended up losing his job, losing his insurance, but still needed the health care. So within Parkview, there's a charity care system that is built in that picked up his bill in order for him to have his surgery and his rehab and his medications and all of that until we could get him hooked up with insurance again.
We're working with Parkview and addressing some of the recuperative care needs. A lot of folks who are living outdoors, under the bridges and abandoned buildings, they are dealing with serious medical and physical situations. And so Parkview Hospital have come alongside us. And so we're taking care of some of those needs.
Taking care of the needs of the homeless has been the Rescue Mission's mission since 1964, when it opened at 301 West Superior Street. This men's-only facility is 24,000 square feet. Coley says after more than 50 years, the outreach has outgrown the building.
We are going to move. We have to move. Yes.
That's a certainty.
That is a certainty.
In the new design, Coley would like to triple the size of the current building, taking it from 200 beds to 600, increasing the mission size to anywhere from 70 to 90,000 square feet to house both men and women.
Nobody in our community is addressing in a significant way, even the rescue mission, we're not addressing it in a significant way, the number of women who are in need of shelter. Then we have to address the vocational needs. And so we're not doing a very good job at that either. And so we need to provide an area where we could invite folks in, resources in, and help get folks ready for the job market. And we have to address the growing need of folks living outdoors by creating a community resource center for our community. That is where we invite many social service agencies, those who are committed to real change. They will come into our facility and they will just be a one-stop shop for the poor and the homeless. And so that has to be done in collaboration with other organizations who do a wonderful job in case management.
The sites are still up in the air, but right now there are two possibilities. One near CityLink, the other a few blocks away near the corner of Lafayette and Washington. Both offer 3 to 5 acres on which to build.
We're testing the capacity of the community to support possibly a $13 to $16 million capital campaign.
That campaign would be funded solely by donations.
We need to see if our community will stand with us. So we're in the feasibility study phase, the quiet phase right now. By fall 2016 we'll know, and maybe by spring of 2017 we're digging dirt.
The homeless landscape in downtown Fort Wayne could well be on its way to a major change come this time next holiday season. Homeless advocates ask that as you celebrate this season of giving, you try to find just a little bit of time to help those who are less fortunate. I'm Terra Brantley. Thanks for joining me for this special edition of Focus 15, Homeless for the Holidays. Have a good night.